Here we go again. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Always Two There Are, a Star Wars discussion podcast. We are back for our first episode of what we're calling Season 2. That's right? We're calling it Season 2?
Yeah, we're calling it Season 2.
Season 2, our soft relaunch of the podcast after a brief hiatus of about 2 years since our last released episode, or last recorded episode. We still have a few that will be edited and released in the weeks to come. Our sequel episodes.
Yeah.
I'll need to finish
they
those
still need
up.
to be edited?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I'll get those up pretty soon. Anyway, we are back. Gentlemen, how are we doing? Brady and Stephen, I didn't introduce you.
I was just about to point
I'm
that
here
out.
with my co-hosts, Brady and Stephen. Sorry, guys, I'm out of practice. My co-hosts, Brady and Stephen.
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm doing not too bad myself.
Any major updates or anything like that since our last recording, which would have been our kind of what's been going on with us episode?
Yeah, short one. Not much.
I got a second girlfriend. That's
Fun.
nice.
There you go.
It's been really nice, actually.
I've been playing a lot of Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I found a nice handful of comics
Oh, nice.
at the used bookstore.
Nice. The one on the square?
No, this one was down closer to the city we live in.
Okay.
No.
Wait, the city you currently live in?
Yes.
Okay.
So I found Volume 1 of Knights of the Old Republic. So I can, which is, of all of them, that was the one I didn't have. So now I can start reading them.
Oh, nice.
And that's been fun. I'm currently on Volume 3. So it's about...
Where does it start? Does it start on the ship?
No, okay, so it's not a...
It's not like following Revan or
No, the
anything?
game comes after the comics. The comics they start before the Mandalorian Wars, and then they introduce the Mandalorian Wars, take place during the Mandalorian Wars, and are about them. And then, so they introduce Malak and Revan. And Malak pre-Sith his nickname is Squint. He's,
Why is his nickname Squint?
I don't know yet. It's just what they've been calling him. But his real name is Alec, and he we meet him on Terrace. That's the planet we meet him on, which is it's like poetry. It rhymes with his future actions.
Oh yeah, what do you like bombards the planet?
Destroys it completely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then I actually just finished playing through Terrace on Star Wars: The Old Republic, and so you're actually on the ground because the city's been destroyed. So now, all those undercity dwellers that, if you're a Darksider, you like to mess with and like open up the gates for the rat ghouls, they can finally see the stars, and they don't have to go through their big pilgrimage to escape the undercity.
Yeah. You're still on the dark side, aren't you?
Oh yes,
This is Steven we're talking about.
Look, I was just asking a question. I didn't know if... Because Terrace is like one of the first cities you go to in the Old Republic, in the MMO for the light side. And you find out that...
Oh, that's right. It is an early.
Yeah.
It's like,
So you find out that they all died.
I haven't played a light side character in a while. I vaguely remember.
You know when you send them off to that like haven?
Right, and they go on their pilgrimage.
Yeah, they never made it.
I do vaguely remember that they got like ganked by a bunch of rat ghouls.
Yeah,
they
they never made it. So you're like thinking you save them, and you just send them to their death.
Hey, for me, not always. My second playthrough of Coder, if not or maybe it was my first, was a light side. And then they look at me with disbelief.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't believe that.
The game was... I was, what? 8th grade when it came out.
I still don't believe it.
9th grade. So
He was still a child.
I was not.
He hadn't been jaded by this
I
world.
hadn't fallen to the dark side yet.
I probably wasn't even born.
Oh boy.
Probably not.
No, you were.
When did the game come out? Like 04?
Something like that.
So I was like 4.
Yeah. So you were.
I was a youngling.
Yeah, you were.
Was I not, Brady? Was I not a youngling?
You were. I was just thinking how you were perfect size to get cut down.
That's exactly what a Darksider would say. Which is unlike you, Brady. Which is
He's
unlike
a Mandalorian. They've been our minions for a long time.
Are you still gray? Is that still the lore of the podcast? You're a gray Jedi who's also
totally.
a Mandalorian?
I was just making a joke. It's
He
not me
wields-
that's going
he
to
wields
commence
the
Operation
Darksaber.
Nightfall. It's going to be him.
Yeah.
Nightfall, more like heads fall from the shoulders of the children.
No, for some reason, Darksiders, they tend to stab younglings, and then they survive to come back for a series later on.
And speaking of that, Disney Star... No, I'm just kidding. That's not what we're talking about today.
But it does bring us into the state of Star Wars, because I think
It does, since
I
we have some
think,
juicy news.
that was the last show to come out the last time we recorded.
Would have been...
Obi-Wan.
No, Ahsoka.
Ahsoka
Oh, was
was...
Ahsoka?
Ahsoka
We
was
recorded-
coming out.
No, we recorded at least one episode of Ahsoka, I think. And then we stopped.
No, because we didn't cover Ahsoka.
Yeah.
We
We
had not
didn't.
covered it yet. So it either had not come out or we hadn't... I don't think... If it had come out, not everyone was caught up to the same level, so we didn't talk about it.
That's what I feel like it was.
I think that's what it was. But yeah, we hadn't... speaking of, our topic for this week is the state of Star Wars. Kind of something that we've been discussing off and on as we've talked about getting back into the podcast. Is kind of wanting to do a... Last episode, we did a kind of a catch up with the cast and like where we've been, what we've been up to, right? And so this episode and potentially the next one, we're really wanting to get into like where Star Wars was when we left off and where it is now. And so speaking of, Ahsoka was either about to come out or currently releasing, but had not finished yet. And so what was the like kind of public view of Star Wars at the time?
Gosh, if I remember. So I think Mando season 3 had already finished, and that did not go over well. So I think there was the general consensus among the fan base was on a downtrend for Star Wars.
I would agree.
And I think there was hope for Ahsoka kind of fixing it.
I was about to say the same thing.
And I know there was a lot of excitement around, what's the Dark Jedi's name? Balin?
Yeah.
There was a lot of excitement around him.
Which he turned out fantastic.
I really enjoyed his character.
He's one of the best things Star Wars has given us in a while.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we lost Ray Stevenson.
Yes.
Very.
Because he did an amazing job as Balin.
Fantastic job.
And I remember people. So that was like the two things with Ahsoka was people were hopeful that it would start repairing and that it would be a good and well liked show. They were excited to see Balin's character, and they were pretty upset and disappointed with his passing. So
yeah.
And I think, I don't know. I think people enjoyed his last performance.
I know I personally did.
I did.
Yeah.
I thought that fight with him and Ahsoka was absolutely amazing. I think that was one of the best duels we've ever had in a long time.
Yeah, it was good. I liked live action Clone Wars era Ahsoka.
Yeah,
I thought
she did it. I cannot remember her name. She did a fantastic job,
I thought she really captured the animated kind of personality,
especially
and
towards the end.
the fight movements. I thought she did a pretty good job with the choreography. So
Better than Rosario Dawson.
Brady seems to have opinions. He's making faces.
No, I'm just really happy that I got to see Hayden Christensen in Clone Armor.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Hayden, Oh, dude, that's such a big thing. Hayden Christensen coming back to live action is that was like, I feel like
Well,
Star Wars kind of peaked.
He had already done it with Obi-Wan. There were
Yes,
a couple
but
flashback
not
scenes.
that. He had
and no.
appeared kind of, but he wasn't like the Anakin that we know and love. He was Attack of the Clones Anakin, which
That's true.
we
he
all
was.
kind of agree is not peak Anakin, and then he was Vader, which he did. I mean, he did a fantastic job.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
as
like
Vader.
sand.
Right?
we have to mention it every time.
We do.
Every time. It's coarse.
No, yeah,
and it
Clone
gets
Wars.
everywhere.
Clone Wars Anakin was great.
Mhm.
Love Clone Wars Anakin.
And it was good. I loved all of his like scenes when he was dueling Ahsoka
Mhm.
in the Bridge Between Worlds.
See, I know people didn't like that.
Oh,
I think
dude.
that was one of the least liked parts of Ahsoka as a whole by the general.
I
fan
think
base.
that was more of a general fan base thing,
That's what
and
I'm
not
saying,
for anyone who watched Rebels and watched Clone Wars loved that scene.
And that's the crazy thing to me is that like when you look at Anakin, if you actually like pay attention, like he is the chosen one at that point because he switches between the two. He
Yeah.
switches between Anakin and Vader in that fight
Mhm.
when he's trying
Yeah.
to teach her. Like he has come like
He does. He goes between Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith.
yeah,
Anakin.
and then he goes full Vader when he has the full on Sith eyes and everything, and then he like
Still pre-lava Vader though.
yeah, well yeah, but and then he he comes back. He like it shows him controlling the dark side and not coming back. To
It did remind me of Revan. Because Revan is one of the few characters in Star Wars that actually came back from the dark
Yeah.
side and became a redeemed Jedi.
Yeah.
So,
Who'd be the
Well,
others in
it's
that?
really hard when there's a lot of brainwashing involved.
yeah.
Would we-
Erasing all of his memories.
I mean, I wouldn't really count like Luke, because there's the run in the comics when he
Oh, the Dark Empire?
intentionally
yeah.
like goes to the dark side, but I wouldn't really consider that the same as like Revan full on fell.
Yeah. Yeah, because Revan did. He full on fell, though he did fall due to brainwashing. Because he originally went out there to find what he sensed a threat. And it was the Emperor.
It was vicious.
Vicious. And
Yeah.
then he brainwashed him and tortured him into becoming a Sith Lord and then sent him out as kind of like a proxy just to probe the Republic and see what their strength was like while the true Sith Empire, separate from Revan's Empire, kind of remained hidden. And they could use Revan's Starforge Empire to gauge. But then there's Juhani in the
Mhm.
first coder. She wasn't really a Sith, but she was a Dark Jedi for a brief time. It doesn't really establish how long, but she went and meditated in a kind of a place that is strong with the dark side. And you can talk her down and bring her back. I think the canonical story progression is Bastila. You redeem Bastila at the end of the game. And she comes back from being Malik's Sith apprentice.
Well, yeah, they're married
Uh,
in the books.
oh, Revan and Bastila?
They have an apartment on
I haven't read
Paris.
the books.
Yeah.
I know I'm such a... I need to get on it.
Yeah, they have an apartment on Terrace.
Oh,
Yeah. After they rebuild it.
okay. It's not even rebuilt 300 years later.
Yeah, I know.
But, what else? What after Ahsoka?
Well, I think the thing is that there wasn't a lot after Ahsoka. We haven't gotten
We had the Acolyte,
We've got an Acolyte, Skeleton Crew.
and that's kind of
that's
been
I
it.
think that's it. 'Cause
well,
we haven't.
we've had Bad Batch running.
That's
I
right.
don't think-
we did finish Bad Batch, and I love Bad Batch.
I don't think Bad Batch counts kind of for this conversation, because this is more of like I think Bad Batch has always been great. I think the only people watching it are the hardcore fans that watched Rebels, that watched Clone Wars, that love Star Wars regardless, because you don't see a lot about Bad Batch in like the general conversations. You see a lot of Ahsoka, you see a lot of Acolyte, you see a lot of Skeleton Crew, but you don't see a lot of like Bad Batch like content reaching the more casual fans.
Sure. I'll say there's, I think, a clear distinction between animated Star Wars and live action Star Wars, at least since the Disney era, because
I think Dave Filoni has more control.
Yeah, and I do think that I don't know, because they kept the Clone Wars as canon when they bought Star Wars, going into Bad Batch, it was a very easy, smooth transition because Bad Batch is an immediate continuation. I mean, the first episode is Order 66, and the last episode of Clone Wars is Order 66. So they're really just the same show. And then Rebels was before a lot of the things they did to damage.
But Bad Batch even ties into Rebels because in episode 1, Caleb Dune's in it as a Padawan.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but that's more of a retcon.
Right. So I think my point is that like Bad Batch was good before the state of Star Wars when we left off,
right? And
it just kept being good. Whereas Ahsoka and Acolyte and Skeleton Crew have all been like standalone projects in this like between then and now.
Though I will say, Mandalorian, it was good. It ended not good.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was part of, like you were saying, the live action is a little bit different.
That could have happened with Bad Batch, but I do think that there is a difference between animated Star Wars and live action. But then, things like Obi-Wan was supposed to be a movie, and I think a trilogy. They scrapped that, turned it into a season.
And it was worse off.
It was worse off.
It should have been a movie. And you guys know about the guy who's I can't remember his channel. I wish I could off the top of my head so I could plug him. He's re-editing Obi-Wan into a movie. He's taking the 6 episodes. He's re-editing. He's redoing a lot of the CGI to make like the Grand Inquisitor look a little more like he does in Rebels. To make the Fortorius Inquisitorius look a little more like it does in Rebels and stuff. Little reference
what was his
for
name?
OG.
The green-skinned Inquisitor, played by the actor who plays
I think
Wong.
he's the 7th brother.
Is he 7th?
Not Wong. It's the actor who plays I can't remember his name. He's from Fast and Furious. It's the Asian guy from Fast and Furious. Sorry. I don't remember his name. It's not the guy that played Wong. Trust me, when it comes to actors, this is like where
This is the guy who can't remember his name.
Yeah, but you're saying you're saying the wrong actor. At least I know who it is. Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway.
He doesn't look anything like the animated.
I think it is this.
He's shorter. The live action is shorter,
and
in the
much thinner.
And in the anime, well, he's leaner.
Yeah.
Because in the anime, that character is a giant. Like, he is like 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
And he's massively broad-shouldered.
And he's a little bit dumber than a box of rocks.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the Amazon Reacher?
Mm-mm.
No.
The actor who plays Reacher in that would have been a good, at least in terms of physique.
I don't know if he
he
doesn't do a great job at playing a villain.
I don't know. I mean, in Reacher, he's pretty stoic and quiet and straight-faced. So, and I haven't really seen him in anything else. So I don't know his acting. I don't know how he is in a variety of roles. But he at least is like 6.5 feet tall. He's extremely broad-shouldered. He would have looked the part.
Yeah. He was also in the something Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Fantastic movie. He was in that too.
That sounds like a movie with Henry Cavill.
It is.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It's fantastic. If you have not seen it, it is fantastic. Genuinely, I enjoyed. Anyway, but yeah. So I think a point that me and Brady were talking about a little while ago was that when we left off, Star Wars was in the mainstream.
It was.
I think it was kind of sunsetting that era for Star Wars. But Star Wars was still like Ahsoka was. I went to Fan Expo like that year, was it the following year? But like Rosario Dawson was there for Ahsoka,
Sure.
and so it was like Star Wars was in the mainstream for sure.
I think it still is. It's just it's not popular.
I think that's what we're.
There's no faith in. There's a definite lack of faith in Star Wars. And
I know what you're trying to fish for, and I'm not gonna say it.
I feel like that's been a problem for a long time that has absolutely nothing to do with just the state of Star Wars currently.
I think that's been a problem since Solo. But
I think that's been a problem since Disney bought Star Wars.
I mean, people have been wary since Disney bought Star Wars, but like a palpable sense of like faithlessness in their ability to do good since Solo, because Solo was the first Star Wars flop. A lot of people are like, it's an unnecessary. We don't care about Solo's backstory, and we don't really want his character explained in that kind of detail. And then it's gotten worse in the last 2-3 years because they've mishandled a lot of things since the Gina Carano kerfuffle. They've canceled like half their announced projects. I know people right now because in the current news for Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy is
talking about her supposed retirement,
but she said she's not going to retire. She'll make movies till the day she dies.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of speculation of she's going to retire, but she's going to take up like a puppet master type of role where whoever replaces her will really be kind of doing what she wants from behind the scenes, and or that she's going to not be the president anymore, but she's going to go and be like a producer or like a creative executive director, producer, where she can still kind of keep an eye on how things are going. There's a whole lot of speculation, but there's that. And then, I got sidetracked. There was another thing in current event news with Star Wars. It's gone now.
Well,
I'll think of it again in a few minutes.
I think part of it is that they're just
how that goes.
When Ahsoka came out, we were getting pretty consistent Star Wars content. You had Visions, and you would wait a few months, and you would have a live action show, and you would wait a few months and have another Visions or another live. Because over the course of a few years, we had Mando seasons 1, 2, and 3. We had Andor. We had Obi-Wan. We had Visions seasons 1 and 2. And we had Ahsoka, and since then we've gotten Acolyte and Skeleton Crew.
You said it. That's the other current event news things for Star Wars is Andor season 2 trailer. Have you guys seen it?
I have.
I have not.
What did you think of the music?
I actually liked it.
I hated it.
That's fair. So the music in the trailer wasn't. This isn't a spoiler by any means. The music of the trailer wasn't traditional orchestral, like John Williams, Michael Giacchino, Ludwig Göransson. I did not say his last name right.
Don't tell me what it was. What do you think it could have been? Since now you know what it was not.
Why do I get this feeling that it's like trap music?
It's not that bad.
No.
It was a song. It was a song.
It was like an actual like
a song, an honest to God song. And
imagine trap music in Star Wars.
No, please no.
Maybe on Canto Bight.
Right.
A very long time to get accustomed to the Cantina music in Star Wars: The Old Republic, because that is very jarring. It's not Star Wars music. At least it didn't sound like it at first. I've gotten used to it now, but no, this trailer, it was country rock and roll.
This is why Tattooing Rhapsody is so important.
With lyrics. And it was just, I know a lot of people hated it. They are like, it's not Star Wars. And they're like, this is exactly what you would find in Guardians of the Galaxy, where you have Star-Lord running through some, and I know one person they clipped into their spiel about this. They clipped that scene of Star-Lord in the ruins at the beginning of the first movie where he's kicking the rats and he's listening. What was the song? Blue Suede.
Come and Get Your Love.
Come and Get Your Love. And it's like, and it's like that. It's,
I think it was Redbone.
for Guardians of the Galaxy, it makes sense because he's a human from Earth, abducted during the late 70s, early 80s, something like that.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense. But it had that vibe, but it's, instead of a human from Earth, you know, out in space, it's Andor on Coruscant blowing something up. You know, because now that he's part of the rebellion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is not a real world human country rock song
Okay.
setting.
I'm going to give my take and then allow Brady to work in the middle, as is the nature of our podcast.
Hey.
So, I think that the majority of people who are upset by this change are people like Stephen, who are Star Wars purists, who do not enjoy changes to the brand. I liked it. And this is someone who, like, I'm younger. My movies taste is much more like modern, and my music taste is much more modern. And so I appreciated and Steven is going to hate this, I appreciated Star Wars knowing where the culture is at, knowing where the culture, just for movie and show trailers, the trailer is a very modern 2025, there's a new thing coming out, like, get excited for it kind of trailer. The way it's cut, the way the music plays into it, and it's not as epic, and it's not as, like, eerie, and it's not as espionage-esque as just like a classic, like, fanfare or a bunch of strings doing some, like, real, like, suspenseful, like, melodies. It was, to me, it felt like kind of a nice, like, change of, like, oh, Star Wars can also be this. Star Wars can also be this kind of, like, and yeah, the show is still going to be, like, on the darker side, on the grittier side, and all of that. But this trailer is one, like, building excitement for the show, and will definitely bring in people who would not have originally watched it. And I think it's just, it's nice to see that Star Wars can do something different than it's always done.
Okay, well, before I start my piece, what type of genre was the song?
It was like,
Country
it was very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque.
It was
like a little classic, a little, hold on.
It was country rock.
We'll have to cut this because
Are you gonna play it for me?
copyrights. But
Oh, hold on. I think we just let him see the trailer.
okay, so say the name of the song is "The Revolution Starts Now."
I bet that's exactly why they chose it.
Okay.
Just give you a little taste of it real quick.
Nope.
It's too irreverent.
I just...
Come on.
So I'm all for different genres of music being in Star Wars.
Are you watching Star Wars when you hear this? That's the question.
My answer, I would love to. I would love to see Star Wars content with this kind of vibe to it.
Okay.
I don't mind the vibe, but it needs to sound like Star Wars.
See, I disagree with you, Steven, because Tatooine Rhapsody doesn't sound Star Wars. It sounds like garage band punk rock. and I love it.
Sounds like
it,
like anime intro music.
No, it sounds like that, like not the maybe the Japanese does, but
Yeah,
the actual
it's a better version.
The English version sounds like the pillows from Fully Cooley. Like, it's very punk rock. But it still fits within that universe, and I think that plays a really big part into it. That I feel isn't the song's fault, but the type of setting that Andor is. I think that's where my confliction with it is that when I listen to that and just going off of season 1 of Andor, that doesn't really fit into, because that kind of music gives me like this, like I'm a space trucker kind of thing, like a vibe where I'm like sitting in my cab listening to the radio. I got a ham radio on me, kind of thing. It gives me a very like I actually use the YT300 for hauling freight.
So I think that part of it is that I don't think it's just because the title of the song, "The Revolution Starts Now," is why they chose it. There's also some of the lyrics that go into.
I will say it
that,
does.
like,
It sounds.
It matches up.
It feels very Guardians of the Galaxy.
It does.
I think
and
part
I think
of
they're
what
playing
they're
on that.
I think part of what they're doing is changing the theme a little bit for Andor season 2, because Andor season 1 is very like no one has quite like fully rebelled yet. Everything's very like under wraps. Everything's very like they haven't like come out as the rebellion, right? And then by the end of Andor season 1, it's kind of like the gun has gone off, the shot heard around the world. Like it's now open. They're now like in the beginnings of open war with the Empire. And so I don't think that this season will have nearly as much like the political side will still be there, but like one of the shots in the trailer is Mon Mothma like in the like Senate, like openly, you don't hear what she's saying, but you can clearly see she's openly defying the Empire.
Now that makes me wonder what the time frame for this show will be, because I know that it's supposed to end right before Rogue One begins.
I can tell you what the time frame is. There's 9 episodes. First 3 will be 3 years BBY. Second 3 will be 2 years BBY. Last 3 will be 1 year BBY, leading up to Rogue One. That is the timeline of the series.
So the last 3 episodes are really like 0 BBY.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to be days before episode 1.
So you're in
or episode 4.
Yeah.
They're in open war with the Empire.
See, I feel like if you were gonna go that route, I feel like Rage Against the Machine would have been a better choice.
That may be the case, right? That may be the case,
especially with like open defiance of like the Empire and like tyrannical rule.
Right. That may be the case, but in terms of the like it not fitting, like it works, but maybe not for Andor. I think that may be less of an issue because Andor season 2 will feel significantly different from Andor season 1.
And I can agree with that.
So too.
However, I think that's a bad marketing decision. Because like, how is this song? Because we've only just had the trailer, so
right. We don't know how music is going to play out in the show itself.
Yeah, or we're going off of that. The theme of 9 episodes is being inflected by this one song,
and I really am. I probably would not finish the show if the music, if they're going to go the Guardians of the Galaxy route where they have like their volume, their playlist, and it's just a bunch of songs. I
don't know. I love Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, yeah,
I do, but it makes sense because of who the main character is and where he's from.
I don't think that'll be the case though, because but if we just get the entirety of the show doesn't have to match the feel of one trailer.
No, I agree.
That's true.
There will probably be several trailers that have different feels.
The concern, though, I think that people have, and I kind of have, is because it's a Star Wars trailer that has nothing. It's a galaxy far, far away, and yet all of the music is Americana. So are they gonna inject a big dose of Americana into the show?
I don't think it has to imply that.
I don't think so either. But
I think that is a
it's
that
Disney
is an
Star Wars.
assumption that they're going to do it. That is,
It has some foundation because it's Disney Star Wars, and they are not known for making good decisions.
well, yeah, but this assuming that they're going to make that specific bad decision, like they did in Skeleton. Has everyone seen Skeleton Crew?
I have not.
Okay,
I
have you
have.
seen the
I've
trailer?
I've seen the first episode, and I was like, these kids are idiots.
Okay, fair. But
Do you not care about finishing it?
No, I do. I just haven't gotten around to it.
anyway,
I've been busy.
Skeleton Crew, they do the like suburbia theme. I feel like they did it pretty well. And that
Yeah.
I would consider that being injecting Americana into Star Wars universe,
Yeah,
and they did it well.
Because
would-
I've seen the first episode and I've seen that planet, and it is very suburb.
It is.
It is
Okay,
very. It is very
so-
like the cul-de-sac from E.T.
And
Mhm, literally.
I had that thought, and I suppose I did have some issues with how they portrayed, at least the layout of life, of like daily family life, in a Star Wars setting. But I suppose there's enough. Expansion and life in the galaxy that not everyone is going to be living in some sort of Coruscant style or Terrace or Nar Shaddaa style,
Like Mega City.
Humanopolis.
Yeah.
Mega City,
There-
like war, politics, all like that. That's
There's
most
gonna
of what
be-
we see.
You're gonna have it. To me, it seems like you're definitely gonna have single family homes arrayed in some kind of a neighborhood, out in the plains or whatever. But
Okay.
however,
I have another thought, and I will wait.
one of the things that really helped that, and I think, is that it's still like when you open the garages of those homes, you have speeder bikes, and you have dinky speeder bikes that are clearly made for children, like your first moped or something.
Yeah. Your stereotypical bicycle.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's still Star Wars, gizmos and gadgets in the garages. It's not a monkey wrench. It's a hydro spanner or whatever they call it.
It's a hydro spanner.
Okay, sometimes I
Yeah.
get the tool names mixed up between
No.
Star Wars and Star Trek.
No, it's a hydro spanner.
And I think
in
in
Star Wars.
Star Trek there are hydro spanners.
Are there?
I think.
It's just like how there's Spice and Dune.
Yeah. So, and because when we see the one girl rummaging around in her garage, it's a bunch of Star Wars looking things on the workbench, not, real world looking things.
Yeah, a Phillips.
Yeah. So when it comes to the trailer and it's the music, and
So let me ask you this, Stephen. Would it have made any difference if it was a completely original project? Like if they had hired a band to do a song?
yes, because I am completely fine with the music in Fallen Order.
Okay, but what about
And-
Tatooine Rhapsody?
I honestly don't remember the song.
It is an
He
objectively punk band.
he did not enjoy it. I remember.
No, I know
he
he-
did not enjoy it.
I know because I went back and rewatched it and I enjoyed it more the second time.
Yeah, no, I
But
recently
that was
just
that an
got
original song.
yeah,
And it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
but it's
The
also a very like earth world genre type of music. It is not the like the jizz band Cantina music or the
Sure.
Blue Elephant. It's not the it's not the stereotypical Star Wars music. But
Sure.
I just
It-
wanted to make that point.
it has to do. I think it has to do with the fact that this song is not an original song in the trailer.
Okay, but that
Um,
kind of defeats your point because if they made a song that was the exact same genre, but maybe was sang in a different language, yeah, it would feel more Star Wars. But it's still taking the song and the message of the song, which is very like 70s, 80s, and the like all of that, and putting it into Star Wars. You're just changing one simple.
I mean, it's also that particular song. Like, it's more of an upbeat. It's a rock and roll.
So this is
it doesn't scream rebellion to me. It doesn't scream we're going to war.
That's why I said rage.
okay.
And-
So let me. This is kind of the point I was trying to make, or wanted to make earlier. Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
It's very like the Jyn Erso is the main character, and
Yeah.
her big thing is that like her dad is working for the Empire, and she's like going undercover, trying to like take this whole thing down. It's very like
Covert.
there's a feeling of like, not the word I'm looking for. It's a like doom. Like everything's gonna go bad. Like we all know that these characters don't survive. Like it is like the whole movie, the whole story is just, there's not a lot of hope to it. It's really just they're going in, they know it's basically a suicide mission, and they're just trying to do the best they can to get this information to the Republic. Andor season 1, it's this like, okay, he's kind of on the fence, like he wants to rebel, and then the guy I can't remember his name, Skarsgård's character,
he is such a good character.
like
I do like
recruits
his character.
him and like
I
all
liked
of
Andor
that
season
stuff,
1.
and he's kind
I
of
loved it.
hesitant and all of this, right? I think that when I think of like the early days of the rebellion, my first thought is like people like Poe Dameron, who are like, this is like, okay, we're finally out in the open. Like we're not just, because they're not in hiding anymore. They're not in this like, at least maybe in some part of the show, maybe the first 3 episodes they are, but like they're not, it's not this like, okay, we're going undercover and we're sneaking in
Right.
and we're taking all this. It is this, no, we're in open war. We are, so like what kind of music are like these frontline soldiers listening to, right? When they're going up against the Empire, it's not epic orchestral, like no, they're listening to like the stuff they grew up with, the stuff that's out now. And yes, it may not be the music that came out in the 80s in America, right? But I think that the song fits the vibe of the like rebellion getting off the ground. And it's more of this like, okay, now we're out in the open, now it's time to go. And it's not quite this like punk rock, like stick it to the man feel, but it is this kind of like a little more hopeful, a little more upbeat of like, we're not quite at Rogue One, which is just like, there's no good outcome, we're just going to do the best we can. We're at the beginning, the inception of the rebellion, which is like, we have nowhere to go but up. Like, yes, we're taking on this like massive obstacle in the Empire, but we have a direction, and we have a hope. For the only reason anyone is involved in this is that they have a hope that they can overcome the Empire, right? And so it's before any of like the major like hindrances. It's before we have like heroes of the rebellion. It's before we have an army and generals and all of that. And it's just these people who are like, all right, we've been waiting. Now's the time. Let's go. And I think that the song fits that spirit very well.
I mean, I agree. Like the song conveys those vibes and those emotions. I just don't think it works with the setting of Star Wars. But also, I because you, Brady, had asked me about like, I think it was you who asked me about if it was an original song.
It was. Yeah, that was like
Because
less than
the
10
opening
minutes ago.
song of Fallen Order was a real band, The Who, a Mongolian band.
Are you talking about in the very beginning?
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's very modern. It's very like grunge metal,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but it is written in an alien language. And when we are introduced to the song and the setting and the characters,
Cal is actually listening to music.
Cal is one. He's actually listening to the music on a headset. He is a grease-covered, dirty scrapper in a junkyard where the camera's panning and flying through a junkyard. We see a bunch of dirty aliens all It sounds.
That's a little racist there.
Hey, I'm the pure-blooded Sith. Anyone not pure-blooded Sith is an inferior slave race.
Nazi.
We gotta be careful, guys. We gotta be careful.
But they're all, dirty, filthy, greasy aliens and humans tearing apart a Venator class.
They're dirty, filthy, dirty aliens.
Send them home.
Get them out of here.
We gotta send them back where they came from.
Just the
You
bad
have
ones.
to cut that. You have to cut that.
Oh, dude, leave that in.
Okay.
Please.
I will get so canceled.
This will be.
By who?
This will.
Everyone I work with.
That will be the
I'm a
Patreon
barista,
edit.
Brady.
That will be the Patreon edit.
Dirty aliens. Greasy.
That's a really good Oompa Loompa you got there, man.
Okay, so goodness. Okay.
Oh man. So here's another.
So the song, despite sounding like modern real world music, it fit the setting, and it had those elements of an alien language. So it was Star Wars, and for our American ears, we don't really listen to a lot of Mongolian metal.
No. So it does
just,
sound very alien.
Just
off
like
the bat.
the throat singing type of vocals already sounds just different enough that it's believable in a Star Wars setting.
And I also think like you were saying, you mentioned grunge earlier. That really fits the scrapper.
It does.
Because he was a scrapper, and if you're gonna be a salvager or a scrapper,
So, yes,
I'd definitely
100%.
be listening to grunge.
But common is English. Okay, so if we had an original band come in and write an original song about the revolution starting now in the same genre in English, which is the common tongue in the galaxy, what would be your problem?
I still.
If it were original song, it wouldn't be a problem for me.
I don't think it's just that. I think it's that, but I think the major problem you have with it, Stephen, is that it is two Guardians of the Galaxy.
There is that, but it's also that it's a real song. You can go watch the music video of it on YouTube. I think it's very identifiably country rock.
I think you're being too purist again, because if that is the case, then no trailer
I'm shaking my head.
No trailer ever can ever use any real world music unless that thing is specifically set in our real world or connected to our real world in some way. And I think that is an unfair restriction to put on
so
a
let me ask you
trailer.
this, Stephen.
I think that's a you're leaping to a conclusion there.
Okay, well here, let me ask you another question. Would you feel the same way if they used guerrilla radio from Rage Against the Machine, which is literally about?
You'll have to remind me of the
the song is about using guerrilla tactics.
I can't hear the song in my head right now.
Oh my God.
So is your problem the genre?
Yes. One, I'm not a huge fan of country music, even country rock. And I can clearly hear the country elements in the song.
So you think country doesn't belong in Star Wars?
Unless you're a nerf herder, no.
Okay, but who's starting this rebellion? It's not the uppity people on Coruscant who are going to be listening to your classical, jizz music. It is.
I guess your sister's not listening to this podcast anymore.
It's legitimately called that.
It's the nerf herders. It's the farmers. It's the mechanics. It's the engineer. It is the lower class of society.
It's the hard work.
This is the kind of music that these people would listen to. This is the kind of music that truckers, that mechanics, that plumbers, that electricians, that construction workers, that lumberyard forklift driving mother effers listen to.
Yeah. I totally get it. I could totally see a group of cargo haulers hauling cargo, listening to the song. I could totally see that.
Yeah. So, like they did for Fallen Order, write an original song that is a Star Wars song.
I think it's dumb.
Ooh.
I don't.
I'm so but why? So
because
Shrek
they did such a phenomenal job with Fallen Order's music.
So Guardians of the Galaxy, you said that it makes sense for the soundtrack to be songs that exist because he's connected to
The late 70s,
Earth,
early 80s.
right?
Yeah.
But so what would you say for if a Star Trek trailer came out and had a song that exists already in it, or like any trailer for a Kung Fu Panda trailer, a Shrek trailer, anything, Avatar: The Last Airbender
You had to
trailer,
bring
right?
that Shrek with that teaser
Yeah.
trailer.
Okay, so Star Trek, it'd be fine. As long as it made sense with the characters in the setting on screen.
I think I've made a fair point for it making sense for the characters on screen.
So Star Trek already uses a lot of real music in it, though Gene Roddenberry had
For most of the characters except Andor.
He had a lot of classical music, Gene Roddenberry did in Star Trek. So, but Kung Fu Panda, it wouldn't make sense because it's not the real Earth. There are a bunch of animals. But because Kung Fu Panda is it is, China.
They're animals. We're eating the cats and dogs.
Oh my god!
Okay, we're keeping that.
They eat the cats and dogs.
There goes half the cast of Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, right.
Everybody
except Poe and his family.
Yeah. Surprisingly. It would make sense for Kung Fu Panda as long as the music was clearly Chinese. Because it's a movie set in China.
But I don't think that's the case. I think for trailers, trailers do not represent the theme and setting and characters as much as the property itself. So like, if this is not saying that song is gonna play in somebody's headphones in Andor, but what is the issue with it playing as a trailer? For the trailer, the heart of the trailer is the revolution starts now. It's the birth of a rebellion. It's this like hopeful, upbeat, we're fighting the man.
I want to get excited about Star Wars. And if it doesn't sound like Star Wars, I'm not going to get excited.
I think you need to open your mind to what Star Wars can be. I think when we
Brady's
talked about
over here making faces.
When we talked about visions, when we talked, like, you were never on board with the idea that Star Wars can be anything other than what it already was, and I think that
that's
Star
not
Wars.
True at all. That's not true at all.
I think that the idea of Star Wars being different, of Star Wars getting the and you're gonna hate this, the Marvel treatment of Marvel can be action movies, it can be comedy movies, it can be spy thrillers, it can be espionage political thrillers, it can be space epics.
So when I've talked about in the last season about the Marvelizations, I'm not referring to different genres of storytelling. I'm referring to the idea of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. All of the TV shows, all of the movies are all interconnected, and they all are about the same characters, and they're either doing ensemble stories like the Avengers, or they're doing their individual stories like Iron Man or the Hulk. And then the individual stories will, 1 and 2 lead into the first ensemble. And then 3 and 4 lead into the second ensemble.
I understand what you're saying.
So that's not what... And the reason I say that's not for Star Wars is because Star Wars has such an expansive timeline. Doing that kind of thing, the writers would be pigeonholing themselves into
That's not
just the Rebellion era or the Empire era.
It's not the conversation. The conversation is about the...
Well, I know. So
Star Wars can be different than what it already has been.
Right, and I'm okay with them exploring whole new types of genres. If they did a comedy, if they did mystery or whatever, like I would say the first season of Andor was
Very much a spy thriller.
it was a spy thriller. It was
Those whole first like 5 episodes were
Yeah.
the
and I really
raiding
liked
that
the story.
bunker.
I'm not a fan of how they cut up some of the episodes and where they decided to leave off.
I'm a fan of part of
But-
the story. I don't like the flashback bits.
I don't like the flashback bits, at least from his childhood, because they don't fit with his established
Yeah,
background.
and
Anyways,
we've talked about that.
That's what
So,
I was saying. So.
But as long as it all stays faithful to Star Wars and to the setting, what Star Wars is, and I thought Andor did that. But if they're going to start injecting, music, Fallen Order, with their music, with the Who song, it maintained that because it had those elements in it that it was, real world, but it was also Star Wars.
But what made it Star Wars? Because
The
Mongolian throat singing is not Star Wars. That's
That's true.
Mongolian.
alien language is the because when you hear it, that makes it automatically sound alien because it is alien.
Okay, but
And-
again, the common is the main language of Star Wars,
Sure.
and so you can't say that something doesn't feel like Star Wars because it's in English, because English is all over Star Wars.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's not Star Wars because it's a real song that wasn't written for Star Wars. If they had written, even if it sounded just the same, if they had written an original song and maybe put some instrumentals in there to make it, give it some kind of tie-in with what we expect from Star Wars music,
But that's again,
then it would work.
I believe that this genre of music in English exists in the Star Wars universe somewhere. We haven't heard it yet because we only focus on like war and all of
Right.
that, right? But like, why wouldn't it, right? Like
No, I agree.
And so, if your only issue is that it's original song, my response would be it's a trailer. Again, if Andor is listening to this song in headphones in the show, that's a major like breach of continuity because the song can't exist because it's from
Right.
the real world. But again, the trailer is not canon. The trailer is not like, it's not plot, it's not story. It is
So it's
the trailer is setting the expectation for what you can expect from the show. And I don't feel like a song that already exists. It is an unrealistic expectation to expect them to write an original song for a trailer, first of all.
I can agree with that.
And I don't.
It's a lot of money and resources that we know they have, but don't need to be using.
I don't think that it is.
I think Acolyte was a $300 and something million production.
Yeah, but you could definitely tell that with the CGI. Maybe not the
And the
casting
choreography.
choices
And the
The
choreography.
choreography was
Choreography was
Definitely
fantastic.
see that in the budget.
Hated the plot. Choreography was fantastic.
Yeah,
Sure.
maybe the script was
My
bad,
point
but
is
I mean,
that-
it has some of the best lightsaber fights we've gotten in a very long time.
The best, unequivocally.
My
Unfortunately,
point with bringing that up is that writing one original song for trailer is not
it's more expensive
on
than
a
you
bud-
think for
on a-
one.
on a budget like that. Though it's drops in the bucket.
Yes, but it's not.
I think it's not the money; it's the resource avenue of it. Like it's a 2-minute trailer. Why are they going to hire a band and write an original script, perform all this music for 2 minutes?
We use this term a lot of like what feels like Star Wars and what doesn't, and this doesn't feel like Star Wars and this does. I think that is very subjective, and
Yeah, of course it
generally,
is. Though I would say, while subjective, that does have some root in
Okay.
an objectivity.
so imagine someone who is a fan of. Hold on, let me give credit where credit is due. The Revolution Starts Now by Steve Earle. This is their favorite song, right? They've never been into Star Wars because they never really got the vibe of. They never really enjoyed the like spy thriller side of it. They never really enjoyed the like epic, like Philharmonic Orchestra, John Williams vibe, right? But they really love The Revolution Starts Now by Eric.
Oh, Eric, what was it?
By
I don't know him.
By Steve Earle. By Steve Earle.
Eric.
Well, I keep
AKA
thinking. I
Steve
don't know why.
Earle.
I keep thinking Eric Clapton. Anyway, they love this song, right? And they see this trailer come up, and it's Star Wars, and so they normally would just skip on right by past it because they don't normally enjoy Star Wars, right? But someone says hey, the music in the trailer, I've heard you play that song a million times, and they're like, oh wow, that's interesting. I didn't think that Star Wars would ever use a song like that for a trailer, right? So he goes and watches the trailer and he's like, oh wow, I didn't know that Star Wars could feel like that, and is then now interested, at least somewhat, in Star Wars. And so this whole concept of, oh, it doesn't feel like Star Wars, yeah, it doesn't feel like Star Wars to you, but there's somebody out there who's going to watch Andor Season 2, and it's going to be the first Star Wars they've ever watched. And the only reason they watched because that trailer felt like Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think that's fine.
I mean, there's a marketing advantage to it, sure. This is what you just described.
I don't care about the marketing side. I'm talking about as someone who wants Star Wars to appeal, because you have the original trilogy. Until the day you die, no matter what happens with Star Wars.
Well, now it's just 2 tapes.
You will always have the original trilogy. And so when I want to watch something that feels like pure Star Wars, you go back and watch the original trilogy, right? Other people have Clone Wars, other people have Rebels. They have their definition of what is Star Wars, right? But if we only ever make stuff that feels like Star Wars to us, then we will only ever reach the same people that have been watching for all this time, and we'll never reach new fans. And so at some point,
I disagree with
Star Wars has to evolve. Well, you'll never reach new demographics. You'll never reach new... It'll be the same kinds of people. It'll be the same ages of people. It'll be the same groups. You'll get new people in those groups, and they'll come and go and all of that. But I think that Star Wars can and will and must evolve from what it has been to... We saw the High Republic did kind of Arthurian stories in the Star Wars universe. We've seen Skeleton Crew, which took a Goonies, 80s,
sure.
Kids, family, that kind of feel to Star Wars. And while, yes, those things felt more Star Wars because they had hydro spanners instead of monkey wrenches, I don't think that one song in a trailer discounts an entire show from feeling like Star Wars.
I didn't say it discounts the show
or
from feeling like Star Wars.
If that song were to be used as soundtrack, not in universe, but as soundtrack for said show, it would discount that from feeling like Star Wars.
No, I disagree. Mostly because
that's not going to change.
Because, well, when you bring up the soundtrack, one of the key components of Star Wars' identity is its music.
Has been.
And that still is.
And that can evolve.
I agree. I think it can evolve. It just needs to evolve the right way.
But you don't want it to, right?
No.
You want it to stay feeling the way that you like it to feel. You want Star Wars to...
It just needs to evolve my way.
Exactly.
I think that's the issue here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think you don't
At least I can admit it.
I think you don't like the trailer. I disagree with and what I said earlier. I think most of the people who dislike the trailer are people who are Star Wars purists, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I just think that you have to be open. Star Wars has been around for 50 years.
No.
Coming up 76. Coming up on 50 years. 77. Coming up on 50 years.
So 48.
Okay, so coming up on 50 years, because that's how rounding works.
47? Anyways, so...
It's 25, came out in 77, 48, coming up on 50 years. What I said was correct, was not accurate. Thank you, we're moving on. Star Wars is going to change.
I agree.
I I take the stance that whatever Star Wars, however it changes, I will find a way to like it because I love Star Wars, and you will find a way to hate it because you love Star Wars, and this will always be the issue, and we don't. No, I summed up part of the fan base.
No, you summed up the whole fan base. Fans will either like it, they'll either find a way to like it because they love Star Wars, or they'll find a way to hate it because they love Star Wars.
And the stuff that gets made for the former group will attract new fans, and the stuff that gets made for the latter group will appeal to the same fans and attract fans of the same type. But
they'll still be unhappy.
Exactly, because they're always going to be unhappy.
Yeah,
because they could release something as perfect and Star Wars and purist as the original trilogy, and you would find something to not like about it, because your mission is to find what you don't like about what's going on.
That's not true.
And they could release something that has nothing to do. It's brand new universe.
It kind of is, Steven.
If you didn't know it was Star Wars, you wouldn't. If you didn't know the name Star Wars was connected to it, you would never guess it was Star Wars. And I would love it because it has the name Star Wars and it connects somehow to this thing that I love. We're going to have to find a way to move past this.
And this is why Star Wars is the most toxic community in the world.
Agreed. We're detoxing right now by getting it all out into the air.
We're going to the clinic.
Yeah. I don't begrudge you liking it.
How's your methadone?
Getting empty.
Getting empty?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're about ready to move on.
Need a refill.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
didn't
didn't
get
either.
Oh my God. You said you were detoxing.
I know.
Yeah, methadone is used for heroin addicts to detox.
Yeah, so that was the part I didn't get.
Anyway.
I just knew that methadone was a medication.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so we
If
spent...
you had said Narcan.
Narcan is not used for detoxing.
I know.
Narcan is to expunge it from their system.
That's a very fast detox.
Yeah. Instantaneous.
Do we think this needs to be a follow-up episode? Or, I mean, we've covered a lot of like where Star Wars was, where Star Wars is. The main point...
I think we mainly just covered Andor.
First thing to me... Well, I think the topic was... The point of conversation was Andor. The topic of that conversation was what makes something Star Wars? Can it change? We touched on a lot of like conceptual stuff in that.
I think a good follow-up episode will be where we think Star Wars is going and where we would like to see it go.
100%.
Like what we hope for the franchise and where we... I don't even like calling it a franchise.
Of course you don't.
Well, I don't know. I don't see it as a franchise. I just see it. It's a universe. It's just
Star Wars.
It's Star Wars. I don't know. I don't see it as a franchise. I don't even like calling like the MCU a franchise. It makes it sound like bits and pieces of it could be sold off to whomever.
But it literally can.
I know.
And I think that's a good thing.
We're back on this. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one because we have seen how Spider-Man has been handled over the past like 10, 15 years and the way the X-Men have been treated.
Terminator.
I think that is... So, hold on. So, the Spider-Man epidemic is more an issue of Sony holding the property and not allowing other people to make
I'll agree with
content on it.
I'll agree with that. If Sony would just allow Disney to take over Spider-Man totally.
Well, they don't have it anymore.
Who, Sony?
Yeah, they don't have it anymore.
Soon, if it hasn't happened already, they'll lose it.
Venom: The Last Dance was the first official like Spider-Man Marvel product. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
because Venom is originally a Spider-Man,
right?
Enemy.
Okay, and Kraven was the last of the Sony Spider-Verse.
Kraven was the last of.
I heard it didn't do well.
It did.
None of them have ever done well. The only thing Sony has ever done that has performed
you know
well.
What their first mistake was? Giving the franchise to Sam Raimi.
What?
So Sam Raimi did the first.
Yeah,
three
he did the first 3 Spider-Man.
And
movies.
I mean, I like Sam Raimi, but
I think Spider-Man 1 was amazing.
I mean,
As
I
was Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2, it was 3.
Spider-Man
it was
2
3 that was bad.
Spider-Man
3
2
was bad,
defined
but-
superhero movies.
Yes.
For
Okay,
the-
so what I mean when
and
I
it's
say giving
continuing-
it off to Sam Raimi was...
I'll agree with you. Superheroism is not his forte. It is
not.
It is definitely horror. Horror is definitely Sam Raimi's forte.
And Xena.
Nah, I don't know. Evil Dead certainly takes the cake.
But okay, so it's more of a, because he was it was a one-off thing when they handed it over to him, and at that point in time, the superhero genre hadn't entered into like that Marvel era of like, we're gonna do all the superheroes and we're gonna tie them all together, because in the comics they're tied together.
Yeah.
And we're gonna create a big universe that's expansive. So he told stories that were just kind of like, they're one-off stories, and luckily for Spider-Man, you have the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
And you've got a billion different versions of Spider-Man out there. So it's easy to wrap his into. I think it just set kind of like a...
This is the Raimi verse.
Yeah, and it just kind of set a tone specifically for Spider-Man. And I think in the audience's kind of... their perception of Spider-Man has been colored by the Raimi Spider-Mans.
Okay.
And then there's the questionable casting of Tobey Maguire, at least when he was that age.
Dude, Toby was an amazing. He wasn't a
I
good.
liked
I
him in the
have-
first
I
one.
have
wasn't
never-
a good Spider-Man. He was a great Peter Parker.
I have never heard anyone that
I think
felt this way about the Raimi. I think you are objectively wrong.
Yeah,
I
think you're.
I think
I definitely think you need to go.
I
to
think
Methadone
Spider-Man
Clinic,
1
Should
and
we
2.
save this for our Spider-Man
Hold on.
podcast?
Steven.
Hold on.
No, this
I
needs to be
think
squanched now.
I think you said that the worst thing Sony did was let Sam Raimi make those movies. I think the best thing for the superhero movie genre was Spider-Man 2 specifically. Spider-Man 2 has aged fantastically.
It has, but I'm gonna disagree with you on that because Iron Man 1 is so pivotal.
But
to
Iron Man-
to
but-
superhero.
That's true.
movies.
But Iron Man 1 would never have happened without Spider-Man 2.
No, I agree.
Because
But
Iron
we
Man
can't
was...
give all that credit. Though.
So hold on. Iron Man was no one. Iron Man, the only people who knew Iron... He was not a mainstream hero. He had had a couple... He had had a couple
He was
shows.
mainstream.
He was in a couple video games. But the average person did not know who Iron Man was in 2008.
I disagree with you.
I
that.
think... So, nerds did. Superhero fans did. But the random
I'll agree with
average
that.
person... So, but Spider-Man 2...
I'll agree with that.
Spider-Man 2 did the same thing that Force Awakens did for Star Wars. It made superhero movies mainstream.
I think Spider-Man was a far better known superhero among non-nerds.
Yeah, because kids.
Because we also got from that timeline, we also get Batman Begins, which is another one of the greatest superhero trilogies of all time. And it's a completely different, it's a more realism take than the like fantastical take, but
Right.
I don't think we get any of those without, and you can trace it all the way back. You don't get Spider-Man 2 without like Keaton Batman and Reeves Superman. Like you don't get, right? And so
Keaton was awful. He was an awful.
So hold on.
He was bad.
it proved that superhero movies could, like, they weren't like, even all the X-Men movies were all like campy and they all had the like crazy like comic accurate suits and they all looked weird, but like Spider-Man, it was more grounded, not as grounded as like Amazing Spider-Man, right? But it appealed superhero movies to the average moviegoer.
Yeah.
And made superhero movies into the summer blockbusters that they are now. And
Sure. Okay. So
I'd agree. Spider-Man. If we're gonna go with this route, I'd say Spider-Man 2 and X-Men 1. Because X-Men 1 was a blockbuster.
yeah.
I remember it being at Blockbuster.
there you go.
Yeah.
Boom. Got him.
Yeah. So okay. So
I just
when
think your
say-
claim that that's the worst thing that Sony's ever done is insane. I think the worst thing Sony
I
ever
guess
did
I'm
was...
looking at it more in a hindsight way, because at the time, Josiah's losing his mind over here.
No, you're making him go crazy. That's what it is.
Because at the time, the first movie was just a lot of fun. You didn't really have a lot to compare it to, at least contemporary, because there were the Batman things from the 80s and the early 90s. There was some Superman stuff, but
Some Superman stuff is
There
crazy.
was literally three
Some
movies.
Superman. There was,
There were 3 films.
and one of the greatest portrayals of a superhero on screen that we've ever seen.
Yeah, Christopher Reeves.
okay.
He is Superman.
Yes. But
I have never heard a hotter take than what you're saying right now.
I'm so glad. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that too. Sam Raimi was a good choice.
I think the worst thing Sony
I don't think
ever
it was
did.
his strong suit, but it was a good choice.
I think the worst thing Sony ever did was make Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man in them. They made Venom, they made Kraven, they made Madam Web, they made all of these
was
Spider-Man
Madam Web
movies.
Sony?
Yes.
I didn't see it.
They made all of these Spider-Man
Venom
movies.
was good.
I
All the
liked-
Venom movies have been great.
I've only seen the first
yeah,
one.
I enjoyed them,
and I liked
but
it.
they never performed well and they never reviewed well. They were all like, we like watching Tom Hardy be Venom, but the Venom movies are like, they're not performing like Spider-Man No Way Home and Spider-Man. Like you can't tell me that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies were the worst thing that Sony ever did, when some people's favorite part of the MCU is when Tobey Maguire walks into the room in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Oh, dude, I got giddy in the theater.
I don't.
I still haven't seen it either. I haven't seen.
I
that one.
hyperventilated when
Dude,
I saw
it was
Andrew.
so good.
When I
haven't
saw
seen
when I
the
saw
second
Andrew
or third
Garfield,
Venom movies.
I genuinely
Second one's
I
really good.
hyperventilated. I was
Yeah,
like, I could
I
not
wanna see
breathe when Andrew
I
Garfield
like
showed
the
up,
first one.
and someone sitting next to me was like, "Dude, calm down." I was like, "You don't understand." For 10 years I have been saying that Andrew Garfield was a good Spider-Man, and he never got the love that he
So
And I
deserved.
only saw the first Andrew Garfield Spider-Man too.
They are amazing. See, like
They're
it's
good
funny.
movies.
I used to hate on them, and then we started this podcast and we started talking about Andrew Garfield, and I went back and watched them, and like they actually made me cry. Like Andrew Garfield is an amazing Spider-Man. He's an amazing Spider-Man, a bad Peter Parker.
I would agree.
Tobey Maguire is a bad Spider-Man, an amazing Peter Parker.
And Tom Holland was the first to do both well.
He was first to do both,
And he's not the
well.
best at either,
but he does
but
them
he's-
decently.
because Andrew Garfield in the suit feels the most like the Spider-Man that we all grew up with. He's quippy.
Oh yeah,
He
makes jokes.
He makes jokes, and he you feel like he cares so much about the people he's fighting, regardless of like if he knows who they are or not. He just like he has so much like he has so much heart in the suit. Tobey Maguire is always fighting people he's connected to, and that's why he cares about them, and like he has this personal connection to them, but like
Yeah, now that you mention it, you don't really see Tobey Maguire fight a lot of like.
no, he
Random
fights
people.
Now, granted, a lot of Spider-Man's villains are connected to him some way, right? But like in Spider-Man
couple.
1, you have
Willem Dafoe.
William Dafoe playing Norman Osborn,
Right.
who is like a father figure to Peter,
Yeah.
who then becomes his arch nemesis.
His arch nemesis.
And then you have Otto Octavius, who
who
is
was a
not
professor.
He's his mentor.
Yeah.
his professor, and they get very, very close. But like you don't always see that in the comics. Like Spider-Man isn't always
Right.
fighting people.
He
He is
doesn't really have a connection to Kingpin.
right.
Um,
But
No, I'd say Daredevil does.
exactly.
Right,
But like
Daredevil's not Spider-Man.
Andrew Garfield, you just feel like
No.
he had, in the suit, like the scene at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2 when he comes back to being Spider-Man, and the kid that he had met earlier in the movie is like about to face down Rhino. You never get that kind of heart from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
No, you don't.
Because it's just like, oh, this is the symbol of hope
Yeah.
that Spider-Man is.
Yeah, he's like,
For
thank you
people
for
of
holding
New
the
York.
ground down, kid.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm gonna go watch Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, yeah, like it does a really good portrayal of like why Superman is the symbol of hope.
Yeah.
Why like when people look up in the sky, they know they're safe because Superman is there.
Which I feel like a lot of there's a quick side comment. A lot of people are hating on the new look for Superman and how it's bright. It's fair. It's fair.
I'm not a big Superman fan.
I haven't seen it.
A lot of people.
I don't know what the
and it's
new
not.
look
I don't
is.
think it was a beef with like the colors. It was James Gunn using CGI, which he claims allegedly that he never did. So this guy's whole eye just moved in the trailer.
Well, I think that just might just
Bad editing, or he has a
That-
really bad lazy eye.
or lazy or something like that. But like it's just like it's conveying a different part of the hero, right? It's like because like Tom Holland, you never get that like this is a symbol of hope because you never see Tom Holland really interact with the people of New York so much. But like
No,
the
you
Amazing
see the high
Spider-Man
schooler
movies,
side of him.
the Amazing Spider-Man movies make a point to connect Spider-Man to the people of New York, which I think is a major part of his character that both other franchises have not
Done very well.
done very well.
No.
Anyway, my point is, Steven, you have never been more wrong than you are right now in
I'm
saying,
okay with that.
and that's fair. But I thought your Star Wars takes were hot takes, and then I heard you talk about Spider-Man, and he is my favorite superhero and always will be. And I will not accept Tobey Maguire Spider-Man slander in this podcast.
Just like Star Wars is my favorite thing, and I will not accept country rock in my trailers.
We could go on and on about how these two stances are very different, but we won't, because this has been mostly an hour of me and Steven arguing, which the podcast listeners will
Love.
be comfortable with at this point because
Yeah.
this is all we're known for.
We're not not yet.
Maybe when we stop arguing all the time, we'll be known.
Well, when we start talking about things like the Force and
Such a broad and
the
very
virtue
in-depth
of-
topic.
And yet is the point
The
of
virtue-
having that topic.
have you heard of Maxichlorians?
Oh God.
Have you?
It sounds like a
Just-
Jedi who dropped out of the Jedi Order and started a band.
Have you heard of Maxichlorians?
Maxichlorians?
Yeah.
No. It sounds like,
So okay,
This is your deep lore
this is just
segment of the podcast.
This
Yeah.
is just a deep lore factoid that I recently learned, actually. So Maxichlorian, there was Darth Plagueis' master, Darth Tenebris. He was able to mutate midichlorians to create Maxichlorians. And he essentially, I think he injected himself with these Maxichlorians. But he was able to transfer his Tenebris. So ancient Sith could, put their spirits or their souls into an object or something, and that's how they kind of cheated death. Darth Tenebris, he created basically immortal midichlorians that he called Maxichlorians. So when the body died, these Maxichlorians would stick around instead of migrating back into the living in the cosmic force.
He created force germs.
Yes. And so he injected himself with these things, or with the agent that mutated them. And so when he died, he could use these, because he's now in them, he's, I guess, controlling them. He could use these to take control over another by basically migrating them into that person's body.
by giving them COVID.
Here
Yes.
we go again.
And so
Migrating.
I think he tried to do it to Darth Plagueis, but Darth Plagueis expelled him, and or it was when Darth Plagueis died, his Maxichlorians got expelled, and he got forced into a limbo of sorts where he relives being expelled from Darth Plagueis over and over and over again for all eternity. And apparently it was not a pleasant experience of being forcibly expelled. And so now he just his immortality that he achieved is just eternal torture of looping the same painful experience indefinitely.
Dormammu. I've come to bargain.
And so Darth Plagueis saw this and was like, how about instead of mutating midichlorians, we just use them to instead create new life.
So
And
that
now we have Anakin.
was your...
Shut up.
No, here we go.
Shut up.
What?
You don't believe that Palpatine is Anakin's Force daddy?
No.
That's fair.
No, I don't.
Anyway,
Especially since that's been debunked.
this has been Always Two There Are, a Star Wars discussion podcast. You can email us with any comments, questions, or concerns at a2ta.humancyborgrelations@gmail.com. You can find us on, nope, we don't have any social medias up yet. Do we want to plug personal socials? Does anyone use them enough?
No.
I use my
you-
personal Instagram all the time.
Yeah. Go, Brady. What's your Instagram at?
So my Instagram ad is calbriss, KALLBRYSS.
And Brady posts a lot of Mandalorian like cosplay. Is cosplay the correct word for it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. But a lot of like Mandalorian cosplay content of some communities that he's in. If you want to plug those as well.
I follow a lot of other people in the community, and I
Yeah,
share
so-
a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, Brady posts a lot about the Mandalorian cosplay community and is currently
Working
on his own. And so go.
I recently just bought a gas mask so I can start spray painting things and
Nice.
using like E3000 stuff.
Go.
Protect myself from the vapors.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, a buddy in a community Discord of Mandalorians would eat me alive if I didn't wear the proper PPE.
There's that wonderful term, PPE.
Yeah. Proper protective equipment.
Personal. Protective
Proper.
equipment.
Personal protective.
Whatever.
It's the same. Same difference.
It's the same.
Anyway,
Same difference.
ladies and gentlemen, that's where you can find us.
I feel like personal's inferred, but
My at is josiah.d.sims, and I just share a lot of stuff from my church. And so if you want to go follow that, feel free to. I also post some just like kind of day in the life. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next time for our discussion of where Star Wars is and where we think it's going. And
Where
our
we
hope
would like to see
our
it go.
hope and where we think it's going. And Steven's going to talk about where he wants it to go, and me and Brady are going to talk about where it's probably actually going and how much we love, even if that is not.
I want it to go right into the vaults, never to be touched again.
And
that's where you're wrong.
This is the last episode of the podcast because there's no more Star Wars and nothing more to talk about. Anyway, guys,
well, there's plenty to talk about.
if
It's
you-
just all old.
if
Yeah.
you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening and putting up with our endless ramblings. I am Josiah, here with my co-hosts Brady and Stephen, and we will see you next time.
Alrighty.
May the force go with you.
Adios.